When we lived in Oregon, we lived in a small town that had a very active community theater. And somebody asked me if I would like to sing in the chorus of a production of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. So I said sure, and I liked it so much that I got hooked. And I went on to play several small roles in other musicals. I was Lucentio in Kiss Me Kate, and I was Perchik in Fiddler on the Roof and some other supporting roles. It was a lot of fun. And what I loved about theater was the togetherness of the cast. A musical is a big production, and you have to spend weeks and weeks rehearsing with the other people. And so you get to know people through the rehearsals. And then when you're doing the actual show backstage, you get to know people in ways you hadn't before. And everybody has a part. Everybody is important. The backstage crew is just as important as the leading actors, and the pit orchestra is just as important as the prop manager. So everybody works together. And the part I liked best was the cast party after the last show. Everybody was just would always be just so relieved and happy that they'd had a good production and had bonded so closely in the actual show itself. And then there was also a sadness that now all of a sudden it was over. So it's probably one of the times when I've been closest to a group of people and felt a sense of unity and oneness. Well, in our gospel story today, Jesus prays for oneness and unity for the disciples and for all who come to believe. He says, Holy Father, protect them in your name that they may be one as we are one. So this is Jesus going away prayer for the disciples. It's John chapter 17. This is just before Jesus goes to the garden where he'll be arrested, tried, and crucified. So it's his going away prayer for the disciples. He doesn't leave them without praying for them. He knows that they're going to face persecution and division. And so he prays for protection and unity for them. Father, protect them that they may be one as we are one. Now, many people have read this and lamented the divisions in the Christian church. Why do we have so many denominations, one split after another? Didn't Jesus pray that we should be one? But I think this prayer is about something even bigger than that. I think this is a prayer not just for Christianity, but for all humanity, that all people should be one, as Jesus and the Father are one. Because isn't that the biggest challenge that we face today, that humanity faces today? Division, partisanship, tribalism, nationalism. Just look at our country. We have blue states and red states. We have urban versus rural, highly educated versus less educated. So much division. And globally, same thing. And all these divides keep us from facing the challenges that we face. So we're gridlocked. Some people say that the problem is our partisan, our political parties. If we could just get rid of the current administration, then the next administration is going to come in and solve everything. But if we haven't solved the divide and the partisanship, then the cycle is just going to keep happening over and over. We need unity. We need common cause, something that pulls us together. Anthropologists tell us that the main reason we humans developed as we did is because we learned to work together in social groups, with language and cooperation. That's why we evolved to the point we did. But it wasn't universal, because there's always been tribalism, one tribe against another. My tribe against your tribe, my nation against your nation. And we still struggle with tribalism to this day. Red tribes, blue tribes, you name it. Leaders have always known that the easiest way to unify a group is to have a common enemy. And World War II is a good example of this. In World War II, the whole country came together to fight against the enemy. People sacrificed, they gave up their lives, they worked hard, everyone worked together, rich and poor, black and white, urban and rural. Everyone worked for one thing. And I think we came out of World War II about as unified as we've ever been. And ever since then, it seems like it's just one division after another. The best way, I think, to bring people together for unity is to have a common cause, common goal, common vision. Like community theater has a common cause. And what better common cause could there be than to work against the threat of climate change? Seems like that's something that all people everywhere should be able to sign on to, because it's a universal threat. It's a threat to the future of our children and our grandchildren, to the whole planet. And yet, we can't even seem to agree on that. Even climate change has become a partisan issue. Jesus prayed, Father, protect them, that they may be one as we are one. I can't think of a more important prayer than Jesus' prayer there at the end of his life. That they may be one as we are one. You know, the oneness of the Trinity is the model for our oneness. Jesus is one with the Father, and they're both one with the Holy Spirit. So the Trinity is a model of unity. Now, unity is not conformity. The Father is different than the Son, who is different than the Holy Spirit. So unity does not mean sameness. We're not going to bring unity among people by forcing them to be all the same. If you have ever worked with diverse groups of people, you'll know how exciting and stimulating it is to have diverse opinions and different backgrounds to help solve a problem. So the Trinity shows that we can have unity with diversity. We don't have to be all the same. Now, Jesus was a model of unity. He accepted all people. He loved all people. He interacted with everyone he came to. He spoke to all people and not just some. And his message is universal. It's not just tribal. He didn't come as an elite. He didn't come as an outsider to impose order on everyone else. He came from below as one of the people. He came to gather, not to scatter. And when Jesus prayed, he opened himself to the Father. He opened his mind and his heart and his spirit, and he received from God what God had to give him. And when we listen to each other, we human beings, when we really listen, when we open our minds and our hearts to each other, that's when we begin to find common ground. We begin to find what we have in common and how we can work together. And Jesus shows us how to do that. Father, protect them in your name, that they may be one as we are one. I read about a church in Philadelphia, I can't remember the name, that was going great guns back in the 50s and 60s. Downtown church, beautiful building, wonderful music, wonderful liturgy, Sunday school with hundreds of kids, the whole thing. Probably peaked in about 1968. And then came the divisions. They changed the prayer book in 1979, and that offended some people, and they left. The ordination of women came along, and that offended some people, and they left. They have ordained a gay man as bishop, and some people were offended, and they left. So one thing after another kept dividing the church. And they got to the point where they couldn't balance the budget. And the bishop came and spoke to them, and he said, if you can't figure out a way to make this work, then the church is just going to have to close. We can't save you. At about that time, some new people started coming to the church. They were young people who had wanted to live in an urban environment, and so they started coming, and they saw that there were homeless people in the area. And they said, why don't we start a soup kitchen? And people who had been in the church a long time said, we tried that. Didn't work. It's too hard, it's too complicated. We don't have enough people. But they started small, and they grew over time. And after a while, that church became known as the church with the soup kitchen, and it started attracting more people. And that became their signature ministry. And the reason the church turned around is because it had a common cause in which they felt called by Jesus. They had unity with diversity. They felt called by God. You might say they were one with the Father, one with the Spirit, and one with each other. Well, we can't solve all the world's problems in our little church, but we can live together with unity and diversity, and we can model to the world what Jesus prayed. Father, that they may be one as we are one.